Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I'm going to be doing another TBR video, this time for the month of September 2023. So this one is going to be a little bit weird because I am including a couple of books from my August TBR in for this month. I didn't get to everything that I planned to in August, unfortunately. Was a bit busier, had some additional work obligations and things like that. I've had to do a bit more work stuff and just generally haven't had as much time as I would have liked to actually spend reading. And so I didn't get to everything I planned. So I do have two books coming over from August that are on my September TBR, unfortunately. But the rest of them are new ones that I have not talked about before. So I'll talk first about the ones that I already had in my August TBR. So those are Star Wars Rebel Dawn, which is the third book of the A.C. Crispin Han Solo trilogy, which I am currently reading the second book. I'm planning to finish that by the end of this month. I'm recording this a couple days before the end of the month, but I don't believe I'm going to be able to finish up the third book. I think I should finish the second book by the end of the month, but probably not even get started on the third book, I think. So I have the third book on my TBR for September, as well as the second Percy Jackson book, which I believe is the Sea of Monsters, and I also have the third Percy Jackson book on there as well, which is the Titan's Curse, which I'm hoping to get to both of those in August. So the remaining books that I have a couple fantasy books, I have another Star Wars book, stuff like that. So to get started with that, the Star Wars book that I have is the next book in the New Jedi Order series, which is Dark Journey. Originally, I had Dark Journey along with the duology following it on my TBR, because I actually already recorded this video like a week ago, but then I ended up falling behind. So I was going to read those, but now I'm only going to be focusing on Dark Journey this month and then read the next few books some other time. The last book in the New Jedi Order that I read was Star by Star, which was my favorite book in the series, probably one of my favorite Star Wars Legends books in general. So I'm very excited to read the follow-up, and I'm really enjoying New Jedi Order so far, so I'm really excited to continue. The next one that I have is a Spider-Man book, actually, going to a different media tie-in franchise. This is Spider-Man Hostile Takeover, which is the prequel to the Spider-Man video game by Insomniac that was released for the PlayStation 4, which I actually just finished replaying. I just replayed the first Spider-Man game in anticipation of the new one coming out, and that's the reason why I'm actually reading this month. Because Spider-Man 2 comes out for the PlayStation 5 on October 20th, so I am intending to read this book in September and then release my video review for it on October 20th in celebration of the new game. Very much looking forward to this one. It is a prequel to the video game, so I don't know how many surprises there will necessarily be in store, but I'm hoping to enjoy it. I haven't really read any superhero tie-in fiction before, and I didn't even really know it existed until relatively recently, in terms of novels anyway. And so I really enjoy the specific version of Spider-Man that Insomniac have created for their video games. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to track down the book tie-in for the Miles Morales video game. I would have also gotten that and read that in preparation for the new one as well, but I wasn't able to find it. But I did find this one, so I will be reading that, and you can expect my review for that to come out on October 20th, assuming the game doesn't get delayed, which hopefully it doesn't. And then the final two books that I have to talk about are two fantasy books, which are kind of on opposing ends of the fantasy spectrum in terms of ease of reading. You have one that I've heard is generally considered to be super easy to get into, and on the other, you have another series that I have heard is very difficult to get into. So to start out, the one that I've heard is easier to get into, I'm going to be reading The Sword of Shannara, the first book in the Shannara series by Terry Brooks. So this I've heard is basically an easier to read Lord of the Rings, and considering I've already read Lord of the Rings and would like to read it sometime soon again, but I haven't been able to fit it into my schedule, I think this one will be a fairly easy read for me, considering I've heard that it's, not too difficult or anything. It's kind of a retelling of Lord of the Rings in a way, but maybe a little bit easier to digest. And I haven't heard a lot about the series. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I have heard a lot of praise for it. A lot of people really enjoy this series. It's more of a classic fantasy series, which will also be interesting because I haven't read a whole lot of classic fantasy books. So it'll be interesting to get one of those. And it's a long-running series, very much loved within the community. So I figured sometime I should try it out, and I figured now would be a good time for it. And then the final book that I have, the 7th book on my TBR, my 7th and final book, is the first book of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is Gardens of the Moon. This book and this series in general is notorious for being very difficult to get into, very intimidating, very, a lot of people, even though the reason I want to read the series is because it has a very dedicated fan base. The people who have stuck through this series and really enjoyed it are like huge fans of this series, and I really want to experience that. But a lot of people also, this series has a reputation for being very difficult. So a lot of people will read the first 1 or 2 or 3 books and put it down and say, this is definitely not for me. So I'm hoping that is not the case for me because, like I said, this has, even though it has a reputation for being very difficult to get into, it also has a reputation for being really awesome if you stick with it. So I'm hoping I really enjoy this book and this series. I have heard the first book is one of, if not the weakest in the series. It's from what I've heard, a little bit rougher than some of the other ones, but I'm hoping I enjoy it, and I do intend to at least read the first 2 or 3 books to see if I can really get into it. That's generally seems to be my policy when it comes to series, is try at least the first 2 or 3 books, and if I'm not feeling it by then I'll put it down and walk away from it. So I want to try at least the first 2 or 3 books, especially because I've heard that usually a lot of people don't really get into the series until a few books in is kind of when it starts really working for them. So that's what I want to try to do. So that is pretty much it for my TBR. Let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books or if you are interested in reading any of these books. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and let me know what books you are planning to read this month if you're planning to read any. So that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.